We're beginning a new program. It's going to be called Torah A to Z. We're going to go with each class with a different topic in Judaism based on a letter of the alphabet. Today being the first class, we'll begin with animal rights. We have to feed our animals before we feed ourselves.
Wow, humans are on such a higher level. Why would animals come first?
So that shows you how sensitive we have to be to animals.
Taking care of animals, not, feeding them first, not making them suffer, things like that. I think it sounds to me like Judaism really does have a sensitivity, and all these left-wing activists, if they joined the Jewish crowd, the Torah crowd, they would find that a lot of these values are really part of Torah.
That's right. Autopsies, from a Jewish perspective, are generally forbidden, very forbidden. In fact, the human body is considered to be holy and must be treated with utmost respect, both in life and in death. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of The Rabbi Says. I'm your host, Rabbi Ari Enkin, and we're beginning a new program, a new series over here. It's going to be called Torah A to Z. And what that means is we're going to go with each class with a different topic in Judaism based on a letter of the alphabet. Today being the first class, we'll begin with animal rights, A. And next time, maybe another A, or maybe we'll go into the B's, and so on and so forth. So as I mentioned today, we're beginning with animal rights, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what the Torah says about animal rights and how we have to relate to animals and maybe eating meat and kosher slaughter and all the relevant topics. The idea of being kind to animals, or more specifically, not being cruel to animals, is a very important topic in Torah Judaism and Jewish law. It's known as tsar balei chayim, not causing pain to living creatures. And in the topic in the world of tsar balei chayim, we have all kinds of requirements and restrictions and regulations on how to treat our animals. Something very interesting is Shabbat. Shabbat is found in the Torah more than a dozen times. And one of those times where we find the mitzvah of Shabbat, to rest on the Sabbath, not to work, is a requirement to keep the Sabbath in order to allow our animals to rest, because animals too need a day off. So I'm here with my friend, Michael Gerbitz, and we'll be talking about...
I was waiting for that intro.
Yeah, we'll be talking about
like all kinds... Like a wallflower here.
Yeah, we'll be talking all kinds of issues in Tsar Balei Chayim. So, Michael, Tsar Balei Chayim, if you didn't know...
Well, what do the words mean? Let's get our audience.
Tsar Balei Chayim. It's three words. Tsar means pain. Balei Chayim means living creatures. And it's a ban on causing any pain to anything living, whether it's human beings. Causing pain to humans is a bunch of other violations as well of the Torah. But the Tsar Balei Chayim refers to causing harm and pain and suffering to animals.
Does that include stepping on an ant?
A very good question. So a nuisance.
I'm going to make this difficult for
That's fine. Oh, I'm ready for it. So the Torah and Jewish law allows us to kill animals when they are a nuisance or they're a danger. So you have a fly bothering you. You're allowed to swat the fly. You're allowed to get rid of a nuisance. Not on Shabbat. On Shabbat, we're not allowed to kill anything for any reason, unless your life is at risk, life's a danger. But yes, there is no ban on Tsar Balei Chayim, swatting a fly or stepping on an ant. Certainly if you're doing so, unintentionally when you're walking, you don't have to look down and make sure you're not stepping on an ant. No problem. It is permitted.
But you couldn't do it for fun, let's say.
You should not do it for fun. That's right. That would be a violation of Tsar Balei Chayim. And we got to teach our children also to treat animals properly. Kids like to step on bugs and watch them die sometimes. Right. It's not a good trait.
Brings out the best in all of us.
Yes, it's not a good trait. We got to try and wean our children off such ideas, off such behaviors. So Tsar Balei Chayim, contrary to popular misconception, is a biblical violation. The Torah, not a rabbinical invention or rabbinical enactment. The Torah wants us to treat animals fairly and properly. As I mentioned, that one of the reasons we keep the Sabbath is for no other reason than to let our animals rest. In the olden days, we were farmers, we worked the land, animals were a major part of our daily life. Less so today, but still, the rule still applies. Our animals have to rest on Shabbat as well. Feeding priority is another important angle here in Tsar Balei Chayim. We have to feed our animals before we feed ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about our kids?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. Is there a true obligation to feed our kids before we feed ourselves? I have to look that one up if it's written in any of the rabbinical books. about a requirement to feed children
But
before ourselves.
but humans are on such a higher level. Why would animals come first?
So that shows you how sensitive we have to be to animals. We say in the prayers every day, Tov Hashem lakol, v'rachamav al kol masav. God's goodness and mercy extends to all his creatures, even the non-humans, even animals.
Does that mean that animal rights trump, no reference to the president, of course, animal rights trump human rights?
No, humans always come first. Okay. In fact, it's permissible to do testing on animals if there's going to be a human benefit. So human concerns come first.
So why do animals eat first?
So the Torah tells us when it comes to mealtime, it's in the learned out. Our sages teach us in the verses of the Torah that when it comes to mealtime, you have to give the animals first. Now, if you're thirsty and the animal's thirsty, you're allowed to drink first.
Oh.
But mealtime, you got to give the animal his supper before you have your own supper.
It's interesting. I guess maybe because you might get carried away with your own meal and kind of forget about the animals, so get them out of the way first.
That could be one of the interpretations, explanations, but it's a standalone requirement.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, feed your animals
but
first.
human life is way more important than animal life.
100%. Human life is supreme in Torah thought and Torah law and Jewish law.
Although nowadays, there are these people that give a proper funeral to a dead dog and all kinds of interesting things.
Yes. So from a Jewish perspective, most of this, not all of it, but most of it is simply silly and usually coming from a bad source. Dogs, animals are not equal to human beings. We have different levels of priority in this world, of creations in this world. In fact, on that note, our sages teach us there's 4 levels of creation. You have the inanimate objects, the stones. You have that which is alive, grows, but doesn't speak, grass and flowers. Then you have animals, which, roam, but don't really communicate. And then you have the human being. So you have to remember, we're the top of the totem pole. See, I'm Canadian, I can say totem pole. We're at the top of the totem pole, and animals are a little bit lower down. But once again, the Torah requires that we treat them with respect and dignity and certainly don't cause them anything.
So what about having pets? How come most Orthodox religious Jews don't have as many pets as either secular Jews or non-Jews?
That is a very, very good observation. And I'll tell you, first of all, according to Kabbalah, mystical teachings is that animals are generally impure. And we don't want impure things around us in our home 24/7. So that's one major reason given. Dogs are not a kosher animal. Hamsters are not kosher animals. Cats are not kosher animals.
Well, if they were, I don't think we would have them for dinner anyway.
Well, when Jews were farmers, we had chickens in the backyard. Once in a while, you took that chicken and had it for dinner. So if you had kosher animals, it was very common. Remember Fiddler on the Roof? You go take a chicken from the yard, bring it to the shochet, the slaughterer, will give you supper that night. So that's one reason from the Kabbalistic perspective is you don't want impure animals in the home. Now, that's not really admissible in Jewish law. It's a consideration, especially Hasidic Jews who very much go to Kabbalah for thought and practice.
I don't think I've ever seen a chassid walking a dog. Have you?
Exactly. So it's going to be very rare, very, very rare that's the first reason, more reasons coming. But once again, from the Kabbalistic teachings, you don't want animals in the house, certainly not kosher animals. So that's one reason. Now, as I mentioned, the Kabbalah is not really halachically binding. It's a source for Jewish thought and practice, but not binding. There's a lot in that in Judaism, by the way, that is commendable or recommended, but not binding. Let's not confuse Jewish law with different philosophies within Judaism that teach different ways of living and different lifestyles. So the Kabbalah is one thing, but back to my expertise, Jewish law, there's a lot of problems that can come up. In Jewish law, actual Jewish law, which, if not handled properly, could be a violation of Jewish law. For example, according to Jewish law, animals cannot be touched on Shabbos, cannot be handled on Shabbat. There's a category of Shabbat laws called the muktzah. So muktzah is a term referring to things that can't be handled on Shabbat. And animals is one of those things that can't be handled. So when you have a pet and tempted to cuddle the dog or the cat will come on your lap and things like that, that's a problem.
You can pet it, right? You just can't physically carry it or move it.
So the muktzah is violated when you move something that can't be handled. So you're allowed to touch a car on Shabbat, even though you can't drive a car because you're not moving the car by touching it. But I would say petting an animal is much more problematic because, you can't pet the animal without stimulating it or moving it in some way. So petting would be out. Another example is coming out of Passover just now. A Jew is not allowed to even own any chametz, any leavened products in the home, not even to own it, let alone eat it. Most pet food has this forbidden chametz in it, which would be forbidden over Passover. Putting aside Passover, all year long, a Jew is not allowed to get any benefit from milk and meat mixtures. And most dog food, for example, if you look at those ingredients carefully, have both milk and meat in them, making it forbidden to feed your dog the milk and meat mixtures all year long. Let's think of another problem. If you need to walk a dog with a leash and you live in a neighborhood where carrying is not permitted on Shabbat, you can't walk your dog with a leash. So there's a whole snowball of problems that can easily arise and easily violate Jewish law by having pets, which is why, to answer your question, most Orthodox Jews shy away from pets.
But some do have pets, and so there must be ways to deal with it.
Yes, some Jews do have pets. Sometimes it's therapeutic for children. Of course, someone who's blind needs a guide dog. And so...
No, but some people just have pets for fun. So there must be ways to get around all of these things.
Yeah. So if you're careful and you find the kosher dog food and you don't touch your pet on Shabbat, yes, you can get around many of the issues. Another issue, which maybe its own topic of conversation, is the spading, the neutering. When very often people get dogs and cats, they get it neutered, so it can't reproduce. There's another word, spading and neutering, sterilize. So you get the idea. That is forbidden.
Really?
Yeah, it's forbidden for a Jew to be involved in sterilizing an animal.
Really? Oh.
So that's another hurdle. Yeah.
Interesting. Where does that come from?
Well, it's in the code of Jewish law, black on white. But it's based on Torah law.
A form of cruelty to animals? Is that
No, the Torah itself tells us we cannot do anything to prevent reproduction.
Even in wow.
So in males, it's extremely serious. In females, it's problematic. So again, that's another reason to shy away from pets, because many people are required to neutralize the dog, to sterilize the dog or the cat. Related also in marital life, a man can never be the one to use birth control.
Well, that's a whole different topic. I don't think we're going to.
Yeah, but it's related to the idea that if a married couple has to do some kind of birth control, it's on the woman. The woman will practice the birth control.
It's fascinating that applies to animals also.
Yeah, because the Torah tells us we can't do anything to prevent reproduction in all living creatures.
Wow, really interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of hurdles, but yes, you can get around all these hurdles if you really feel you want or need a pet. Yeah.
Okay, now what about this? Are we allowed to eat animals?
So very good.
I mean, I know the answer, but why is that okay?
So the Torah tells us that animals are there for our benefit, for our enjoyment. And one of those enjoyments is meat, is eating animals, eating food. And the Torah tells us that's 100% acceptable to kill an animal, to eat it. You have to kill in a certain way. It's called kosher slaughter, or in Hebrew, it's called shechita. And when that's done properly, it's permissible, sometimes even commendable to eat meat, to eat animals as part of our diet.
Well, there are times during the year, for example, you could tell me, but I know for sure Shabbat and on Jewish holidays where most people are eating meat. I don't know is it an absolute law or is it more just like of a guideline to enhance the holiday, the Sabbath, to eat meat, which is considered more, important, if you will. People enjoy meat more than dairy in general. That's part of Judaism?
So the idea of having meat at Shabbat meals and holiday meals, as you mentioned, is because in Jewish law and Judaism, meat represents a more royal feast, a more elaborate meal, a special meal, a dignified meal, a distinguished meal. And we want our Shabbat to be distinguished from the, Tuesday tuna sandwich for lunch. Mm-hmm. So we want the meal to be more distinguished than the Tuesday tuna sandwich for lunch. We have meat. Of course, we have an elaborate meal with side dishes, but that's another conversation. But yeah, meat signifies the distinction of a meal. And is it a requirement to eat meat? No, it's not a true requirement. In temple times, it was to have meat and wine on the Jewish holidays.
Well, that's the best proof there is from the Torah, that this concept of eating the meat of sacrifices, that's right there in black and white.
Right.
Obviously, God thinks that's okay.
Sure. I mean, we're now reading the book of Leviticus in our cycle of Torah readings, and we have sacrifices in every of these Torah portions, including the twice daily sacrifice in the temple, which was eaten by the priests. And of course, everyone had their individual offerings, like to bring a Thanksgiving offering or a sin offering. And yeah, as you can see very clearly, that eating meat was normative, daily occurrences in Jewish life. And that continues till this day. And again, so kosher slaughter is the way to eat meat. And let me comment that you find people who say that it's inhumane, it's not appropriate.
Vegetarians. What about vegetarianism?
So vegetarianism is a very good topic, and there's several reasons why a person might want to be a vegetarian. One reason is they feel it's more healthy, and that's legitimate. Judaism says if you feel you're going to be better off with dairy and pasta and other foods, not meat. Your doctor thinks so. You're allergic to different foods. It's not good for you. Doesn't agree with you. Bavakasha, as we say, you can be a vegetarian. There's no ban on that, even on Shabbat, even on Jewish holidays. So that's one reason why a person might be a vegetarian, and that is legitimate. But those who say, I'm going to be a vegetarian because it's inhumane and it's immoral to kill animals, that's not acceptable from a Jewish perspective.
Well, God himself tells us to kill animals.
Exactly.
Even when like a certain korban ola that goes up, it's not even eaten by anybody. It's literally just going, the smoke and scent, if you will, is going up to God, and that's considered a very high type of service. So Clearly. So a person, human beings cannot be more moral than God. If God says it's moral, it's acceptable, it's appropriate to kill an animal, or even as you mentioned, killing it without even eating it, just burning it up as a sacrifice. So anyone who comes and says it's immoral, sorry, you can't be more moral than God. So that approach, that attitude is unacceptable from a Jewish perspective. Right. But again, there's no true requirement to ever eat meat nowadays. In temple times there was. Now there's no, but it's encouraged. It's commendable. And again, it signifies a very elaborate meal, a distinguished meal that we want on Shabbat and holidays. You know, it's interesting. Most of the animal activists, right, they're usually left-wing, liberal, almost animals before humans type of thing.
Yeah.
And you would think maybe that a traditional religion like ours, Judaism, would be opposed to that. But actually, it's really not. I mean, things that God says out straight out about using animals either for sacrifices or to serve ourselves to eat, that's okay. But when it comes to, as you started in the beginning, taking care of animals, not, feeding them first, not making them suffer, things like that, I think it sounds to me like Judaism really does have a sensitivity. And all these left-wing activists, if they joined the Jewish crowd, the Torah crowd, they would find that a lot of these values are really part of Torah.
That's right. They would channel their energies to the right direction. Yeah, it would be very, very worthwhile, and it would be contributing to the Jewish view on animals and pet care and animal care and kindness and that kind of thing. Very Absolutely. Much so. Unfortunately, like you said, they're left wing usually. They're over the cliff. They're over the cliff right. already. But these ideas are found in Judaism. Make no mistake.
What do you think about a guy who loved his dog so much, and I just heard about this. There's like a dog cemetery. He has a funeral for the dog.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about that?
So there's many things in life which, aren't forbidden, but they might be silly. They might not be normative, but not forbidden. If a person wants to have a funeral for his dog, there's no transgression of Jewish law by doing so. In my perspective, it looks silly. To others, it might be sacred. I respect that.
If you had a close friend whose dog died and he's having a funeral, would you go?
I'd be busy that day. Yeah, I'd have other appointment that I have to
What about if you had a friend that had a male and female dog and wanted them to get married, was going to do a chuppah for them?
Yeah, so that would be bordering.
Let's say the menu wouldn't be dog food. It would be kosher human food. Would you attend?
So that borders on blasphemy, on heresy. Yeah. It's like saying, two males are getting married, or right? These are not marriages from the Jewish perspective.
That's a different topic that we're not going to get into today. Let's talk about dogs.
But I'm just throwing back at you an example of marriages that are considered to be illegitimate or non-existent from a Torah perspective. That is an example of an illegitimate or non-existent marriage, is two animals marrying. So I would not participate in something that the Torah cannot accept.
Let me throw this out to you. I know the answer, but bestiality.
Yeah, sure. Of course, that's forbidden. That's
Torah says
Leviticus 18. Right. That's in Leviticus 18.
I mean, it's disgusting. Besides that.
Yeah, besides this, it's horrible in every possible way. But it is twice in the Torah. One in Leviticus 18, and then 1 or 2 chapters later as well. At least twice, bestiality is mentioned in the Torah, and it's just disgusting. And it's a black on white violation of Torah law. It's one of the worst violations of animal cruelty that there is, because it's black on white in the Torah.
All right, let's sum it up. Anything else you wanted to say, or just give
I wanted to share with our audience, other aspects of being kind to animals. For example, there's a ban on muzzling an ox when it threshes the grain. You got to let the animal eat something. Okay, when he's threshing the grain, he's going through the fields. He wants to have a bite. He wants to have a snack. You got to let him. And by the way, in Judaism, you also have to let your workers. If you have workers pulling the apples off your tree, you have an orchard and you hired workers, you have to let them have an apple or two. Okay. So that's an example that we extend that kindness, not just that our workers get an apple or two, but our animals get an apple or two. Extends to there. Another interesting prohibition in the Torah is no unequal yoking. What does that mean? You're not allowed to plow a field with two species of animals. The Torah's example is an ox and a donkey. You can't have an ox and a donkey work together, bound together in a field. A lot of reasons for that. One reason is because they have different levels of strength, an unequal level of strength, which would cause hardship to the weaker animal. Another example, maiming an animal's forbidden. Docking tails, cropping ears, declawing animals' cats, for example, for cosmetic purposes. Very often this is forbidden.
What about if they're going to scratch you? Don't the people do that?
Right. So a lot of them do it. And then you get the problem. Should I have a pet? How bad is a violation of declawing? Do I really need the pet? Do I have to declaw?
I had no idea. Declawing is actually a violation?
I would say problematic. I wouldn't say violation. Don't quote me as violation. Quote me as saying it's problematic. And I mentioned the castration of animals, which
is doesn't sound like fun.
So again, it shows how much kindness and care, concern we have to have for animals. Emotional welfare is also in Judaism. Yes, the emotional welfare.
Therapy for dogs?
So you know what? I'm going to give you an example that borders on therapy for animals. The mitzvah of the mother bird, of sending away the mother bird. When we take eggs from a nest, the Torah tells us, if you want to take eggs from the nest, you must first shoo away the mother bird. She doesn't experience the emotional pain of seeing her eggs. So there's a therapy. We're going to avoid the emotional pain. We have the same day rule that you can't slaughter a mother and its offspring on the same day. Even for kosher food, you got to make sure it's not the same day. So there's more. Factory farming could be a problem. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was the authority for North American Jewry. He probably will be for all time. He died in the 80s. It's a very famous name, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, and his influence continues to this day. And he writes that eating veal is forbidden because to make the veal meat, they put the animals in these cages for their whole life so they don't develop certain muscles and certain strengths, and it makes the meat softer. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein ruled that veal is forbidden because the process of getting that to your plate, it involves cruelty to animals.
Wow.
Another famous example is they call it foie gras. Foie gras. Foie gras is goose liver. And the way to get this delicacy called foie gras, goose liver, is you got to fatten up the goose. How do you fatten up the goose? By force feeding. So many rabbinic authorities say that this force feeding is cruelty to animals, and therefore, even though the final product might have a kosher stamp on it, you shouldn't eat it because it had to get there by causing pain to an animal.
Tell all those animal activists. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, like I said earlier, Judaism has these ideas of the animal activists scream and parade, but you got to channel it in the right direction.
Now, here's one I know is okay. At least I think it's okay. I know the animal activists don't like it. Fur coats.
So, as I think I mentioned earlier, we are allowed to use animals for any human benefit. So, whether it's food or fur coats or the Hasidic furry hats known as the strimals, it is permissible to use animals for any human benefit.
To kill them even.
To kill them for human benefit, as long as there's a justifiable human benefit.
Right, okay. Well, they're not going to like everything about it, but there's definitely a lot of positivity in here. And, it's all positive. It's all from the Torah.
Exactly.
But there's definitely kindness to animal. That's clearly a part of our tradition. You want to wrap it up?
From the animal's perspective, I think I've shared with our viewers most everything that we need to know in a nutshell about Judaism and animal rights. And it does exist.
Should I get a dog? Yes or no? Quickie.
Negative.
Oh, gosh.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I subscribe to the view that Orthodox Jews should not have pets unless truly needed for some reason. Yeah.
How about the conversation gets boring at dinner? Is that good enough reason?
No.
Oh, gosh. No. All right. Don't tell my wife that one. Love you, honey. All right. So we'll wrap up this segment, but
so that's our
we
piece.
are going to do another piece. So stand by.
Stand by. Continuing on in our series A to Z, we're continuing with another topic with the letter A, and that is autopsies. Okay. And once again, Michael's still here with me to talk about the issue of autopsies in Judaism and in Jewish law.
You didn't kick me out after the last piece?
We want you. Viewers want you here,
I don't know if you want me, but maybe the viewers do. We'll find out.
You stimulate even more thought and questions. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
So autopsies from a Jewish perspective are generally forbidden, very forbidden. In fact, the human body is considered to be holy. created in the divine image and must be treated with utmost respect, both in life and in death. And let me just focus on that for just a moment. In life, the body really is holy. Judaism teaches the body is not only holy, but not yours to abuse. One of the reasons why tattooing is forbidden. You can't deface something holy, and the body's holy. That's one of the reasons a tattoo is forbidden. But moving on to autopsies, yes, even in death, the body is holy, and therefore tampering with the body after death is forbidden because of its holiness, and for 3 or 4 other reasons I'm going to share with you right now. Listen, if autopsy is needed for a life-saving procedure, a life-saving measure, then an autopsy will often be permitted. It has to be done with rabbinic guidance. But other reasons why the autopsies are forbidden is based on a few concepts in Jewish law. One of them is called nivul hamet. Nivul hamet, the word nivul means disgracing and met means a dead person. Nivul hamet is considered to be a biblical violation. Any dissecting or disfiguring a corpse is seen as a violation of that honor that's due to the dead. And on the topic of honor due to the dead, it's a requirement to give a eulogy. It's a requirement to have a funeral. It's a requirement to bury, because these are honoring the dead.
And to bury as soon as possible.
So that brings me to my second point, which might be the most interesting point in the world of autopsies, and that is the ban on what's known as halanat hamet, delaying a burial. According to Jewish law, ideally a body should be buried within 24 hours of death. In Israel, especially
they get buried within a few hours, sometimes even an hour or two.
So let's talk about that for a moment. So there is no national law in Israel that a funeral must take place within 24 hours. Again, the Torah does say that. With a minor exception, the Torah does say that. In Jerusalem, this law is widely observed, not universal, not unanimous, but it's widely observed, especially in the Orthodox community that wants to comply with the Torah law. And yes, in Jerusalem, you will have funerals literally 20 to 24 hours a day. If someone passes away at 11 o'clock at night, it's not unheard of to have a 2 a.m. funeral to comply as meticulously as possible with the requirement to bury as soon as possible. So an autopsy delays that. Halanat hamet. So again, unless an autopsy is vital, usually only to save lives, to solve a murder crime, a murder case perhaps, other than that, an autopsy is forbidden. And halanat hamet is forbidden. Delaying burial is forbidden for almost any reason. Some of the exceptions include waiting for close relatives to attend a funeral.
Well, that happens a lot if you're in Israel and you have relatives in the States or vice versa, or if they're flying the body in, that takes time also.
Right.
But that's totally allowed if you want to be buried in Israel, to delay the burial for the 12-hour flight or something like that.
Yes, it's permissible to delay funeral and burial for burying in Israel.
What about the opposite way? I mean, it's unusual, but let's say someone is in Israel and wants to get buried outside of Israel. Would that be allowed?
Yeah, that would be allowed due to the emphasis on the importance of being buried with family. Being buried with family is a very important virtue in Judaism. And, someone might have been visiting Israel or lived in Israel even, but they have a family plot in Brooklyn, in a Brooklyn cemetery. They want to be buried with the family. That's acceptable. And the delay is permissible. But other than reasons that would honor the dead, like, again, waiting for children to come to a funeral, burial should be done as soon as possible.
Right.
It's especially true in Israel, less so outside of Israel, but still, even outside of Israel, it's very important.
So autopsy would definitely delay that process.
Would delay, exactly. Another problem with the autopsies is a prohibition called hana min hamet, getting benefit from the dead. And certainly if an autopsy is any angle to research some kind of benefit, that's forbidden. We spoke about in a previous...
medical research?
Medical would be forbidden. That would be considered to be a forbidden benefit from the dead.
What about all the cadavers that medical students are using in hospitals?
So a Jew is not allowed to volunteer to be a cadaver for medical studies for the science projects.
But a Jew is allowed to work on a cadaver that is not Jewish.
That's correct. A Jew, for example, a Jewish person in medical school, and they have to work on the dead in medical school. So a Jewish student would be allowed to work on a non-Jewish cadaver. There is a dispute in Jewish law whether non-Jews are subject to the requirement of quick burial and whether non-Jews are subject to the ban on tampering with the body. That's a dispute. But ultimately, it is permissible, if the cadaver is there, to work on the cadaver to learn from a non-Jewish cadaver. But a Jewish cadaver would be forbidden. If a Jew a Jewish student would realize, oh, the cadaver's name is Goldberg, or Cohen, you would not be allowed to work on it.
What if Goldberg left in his will that he wants his cadaver to be used for science? And the question comes to a rabbi. The family, let's say, is not religious, and this is the will of their parent, and it's in writing. Happens to be an Orthodox rabbi officiating or in charge of the burial, etc. And they ask him, they want to carry out the will of their parent. What would this rabbi say?
Very good. So the answer to that is quite unanimous, and that is, it's forbidden to comply with the wishes of deceased when they go against Jewish law. One that I deal with all the time is cremation. You have a secular Jew who thinks, that cremation is beneficial for some reason. They put in their will to cremate. So right away, all rabbis are unanimous on this one. No, we ignore their wishes and they get buried.
Wow. As
it's considered to be a tremendous mitzvah to prevent cremations of Jewish bodies.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's a very difficult issue, especially, at an emotional time when someone passes away and you have family that are not observant and don't understand the values, the holiness of the body. That's right. And they do want to comply with their parents' wishes, but it must be a difficult situation. I don't envy a rabbi in those shoes.
Yeah, but the rabbi has no choice.
Have you personally been in that situation?
I've been involved several times of preventing a cremation.
Does this come up a lot where, let's say, you have descendants of someone who's deceased, who one is religious, following Jewish law, the other one does not want to follow Jewish law? They argue. They wanted this
time, all the time, daily. It's daily. Yeah. And if the rabbi is getting involved, a rabbi cannot allow the violation of Jewish law to take place. A rabbi has to stop that. I got a case this week. Came to me a case this week. Today's Wednesday, Monday. A case comes to me, and a couple comes to me, and they want me to perform their wedding. Both Jewish, fine people. One problem: he is a Kohen, and she is a convert. Torah law does not allow us.
A Kohen is a priest.
A Kohen, you're right. In Judaism today, nowadays, although the 12 tribes have been lost, we don't have correct lineage, we do know who descends from Aaron. And Aaron is called the priestly family, the priestly tribe, known as Kohen. And the Torah tells us a Kohen could not marry a convert. And the couple that came to me, he was a Kohen and she's a convert, and they want me to do the wedding. And I said, it's a non-starter.
Well, she must have been religious because converts have to be religious.
Very good. So she is religious to some extent, not super Orthodox, but...
So she must have known this.
Yeah. But they got intimate and involved before they were, observant, fully observant, some details, what might have you. But I had to decline, and actually they went on, and maybe this way, maybe that way. And
I know we're a little off topic, but since it's interesting... What would happen if such a marriage took place? So would that be considered valid? Would they have to get divorced? Is it not a valid marriage?
Very good. Okay. So any rabbi that would perform such a marriage should be what they call defrocked, should have his ordination removed, because any rabbi who facilitates a violation of Torah law is not a rabbi.
What about the couple?
So, okay, very good. Now, in Judaism, there are certain marriages that are forbidden, and if they take place, they have no validity whatsoever. And there's certain marriages that, although they're forbidden, if they took place, they're valid. So if a person wants to marry a tree, it's a joke. It's not valid. You don't need a divorce. You're not married. Same-sex marriages, it's not a marriage. But if a Kohen marries a convert, the marriage is binding. The marriage is valid. They need a divorce, but the marriage is forbidden.
Do they have to get divorced? They must get a divorce?
They must get a divorce. Oh, wow. A Kohen cannot marry a convert or a divorcee.
And if he does, it's valid, but they have to end it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's come to some painful applications I've seen in my career. They're living together for many years, and they become Orthodox, and they realize, oh no, we're Orthodox now. We got a problem.
Wow.
So yeah, I've seen that come up many times.
Must be difficult.
But it is related to our ban on autopsies, because we cannot allow it to take place. A rabbi must prevent a cremation and an autopsy and things of this nature. And so too, with some exceptions in organ donations.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What about that?
So a body must be buried whole. All things being equal, a body must be buried whole, but organ donations are permitted. And in fact, they're encouraged. they're encouraged. A person should sign the donor card.
Really?
Yes. It should be done according to Jewish law. There's many donor cards out there. You know, in America, we grew up with on the driver's license, you can sign up on the driver's license that you want to donate your organs. So don't do that. Viewers should not do that. But there is a way that's encouraged and commendable to donate organs after death in a permissible manner.
What would make that permissible? I mean, an autopsy is taking something from cutting up or taking something from a body, and isn't that the same thing as an organ donor?
So good point. But the answer is no. Organ donation justifies the removal of the parts from the body and making the body no longer whole. To save a life or to give another person a tremendous quality of life is considered to be permissible and encouraged and commendable.
Because it's doing more good for another human being.
Yeah, that justifies the concerns of the body being whole and maybe.
Is there any limitation on organ donation? Meaning, are there any organs that can't be donated or any procedures that can't be done?
Okay, so the easy answer to that is that no, there's no restrictions. All organs can be donated. The problem is as follows. What is the definition of death?
Right.
And even amongst the rabbis, it's unresolved whether brainstem death is death or heart stopping to beat is death.
Certain organs won't be viable unless the body is still to some extent alive.
Exactly.
Then the question is, what about the halachic status? Are they alive? Jewish law, are they alive or not?
Exactly.
So
most rabbis, maybe I think most is fair, but I'll say many rabbis to be really balanced. Many rabbis say that brain death is death. So even though the heart is beating, if the brain stem has no function, there's no movement in the brain, so some will allow removing any organ, even the heart, if need be.
Really?
Others say, no, that's not considered to be death. We got to wait till the heart stops. And as you mentioned, if you wait till the heart stops, many organs cannot be used.
Interesting. So that must be quite controversial, I would think, amongst Orthodox, again, families. Yeah. Some may want to have the stricter definition of death as opposed to the more liberal definition, but it could also affect saving someone else's life. But on the other hand, if they consider the person who's dying still alive, then that could be like murder, right?
Exactly, precisely. The concern
people don't want to get involved in that.
You don't want to have murder on your scorecard up in heaven over there. Right. So even accidental murder, you don't want.
That must be a real difficult problem.
Yeah, it's a hard call
to navigate.
I would say in most cases, it's not really an issue. Most people will die naturally, or God forbid, they'll die in a terrible manner. People stuck in a brain dead situation is not too common. You know,
they probably don't. I don't know how long can a person stay in that state, brain dead, but the heart is still beating.
Yeah, they can stay a long time.
They can.
Yeah, yeah. But in most cases, you'll have a tragic, death, and brain dead and heart dead is instantaneous, and they'll get whatever organs they can get within 12 hours, whatever the deadlines are for certain organs. Every organ's different.
So you can delay a burial for organ donation.
Yes.
If they're not ready to do the procedure or whatever, that's a justification.
Yeah, but they're usually very, very quick. Very quick, the organ donations. Yeah. So these are some of the reasons that autopsies are forbidden. But like I said, I think I mentioned, and if an autopsy will save a life, solve a murder crime, a murder scene, and save another life, yes, you're allowed to do the autopsy. A bit of a gray area, but when the law of the land, the country you live in, requires an autopsy.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
That happens a lot, and that's a bit of a gray area. Strongly discouraged, but to say it's a total transgression wouldn't be fair. It's a problematic area. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that. And when an autopsy has to be done, it should be done in the most minimalistic manner possible. And in fact, most autopsies these days can be done with x-rays and ultrasounds. You don't need to open the body.
Oh, really?
The vast majority of autopsies can be done like that. And that is tolerable, maybe not acceptable, but it's tolerable in Judaism if the body is not manipulated, not cut into. Mm-hmm. You just do the x-rays and the color scanning and things like that. That's usually enough.
Another example of technology helping out Jewish law in a way.
Yeah, totally.
Bypassing some restrictions that we have.
Exactly, doing it in a permissible manner.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. This was very interesting. I mean, it's not something, I deal with, but I guess as a rabbi, these things come up a lot, and it's important to know the truth.
Yeah.
And we're not shy about that. Whatever sides it falls on, it falls. This is from heaven. This is from God. And there's a point where our own human logic has to end, and whatever the divine says we accept and try to understand it. Even if we don't understand everything, but we try to understand it, but we accept it regardless.
That's right.
Okay,
Well said.
amazing.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, last time we were together, we did not complete everything we wanted to accomplish. So we're back again to finish off our A's in our series of A to Z Torah topics, Jewish topics. And we're going to go with the Amalekites now. We're going to talk about the evil Amalekites that the Torah tells us that we must kill and destroy. Michael, it's literally, as I said, the Torah tells us to get a gun, to get a knife, find the Amalekites, say the blessing, Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvoisav v'tzivanu al killing Amalek, and chop them up. It sounds pretty gruesome, doesn't it?
Yes, it's almost hard to believe.
Almost hard to believe. That's true. It's almost hard to believe. And thankfully, the mitzvah does not apply nowadays.
At all?
At all. And we'll talk about how, why, what, where, and when, but it does not apply nowadays whatsoever. Let's talk about who are these Amalekites? Who are they? So when the Jewish people left Egypt, everything was, grand and came off the miracles and the sea and the Egyptians and plagues, and it was a talk of the world. CNN was broadcasting miracles, BBC, all these guys were broadcasting all the greatness that God did. The Jews leave upright Egypt, they're in the desert, and the Amalekites are the first to say, let's start up with those Jews. Let's get the Jews. As it's been since, time immemorial. Let's get the Jews. Let's kill the Jews for no reason whatsoever. So the Amalekites were the first nation to attack the Jews and really ruin the grand show of the upright and leaving Egypt and freedom and the plagues and the miracles and everything that the world saw. Oh, the Jews are not invincible, huh? The Amalekites gave us an idea, and they gave anti-Semites the idea forever. Let's get the Jews. They're not invincible.
So they get death?
So Torah tells us because they were pure evil, and they only wanted to kill Jews because we're Jewish. They had no reason whatsoever. It's a DNA in the Amalekites. They hated Jews and would only kill Jews. That's all they wanted to do with their life. The Torah tells us this type of nation, the Amalekites in particular, specifically, you got to kill them. You got to eradicate them. And that was a mitzvah that in theory continued, from the Torah giving onwards. So why did the mitzvah cease? As I mentioned, the mitzvah is not applicable anymore. And that's because the Talmud tells us that there was a king Sancherib. And Sancherib came and mixed up all the nations. In other words, according to Judaism, to Jewish law, Jewish perspective, we don't know descent anymore. We don't have lineage anymore. Okay, we don't know who's an Amalekite. There's no way to prove who's an Amalekite. Go find me Romans. Go find me ancient Egyptians. Go find me Amalekites. They don't exist. The nations got mixed around and shuffled up, even amongst the Jewish people. We know there were 12 tribes, but most Jews cannot trace what tribe they come from. Only the Levites know their tribe. We have an unbroken, I'm a Levite. We have an unbroken tradition that we come from Aaron and
You think you are?
I think I am. That's the tradition. So as you know, in the Jewish community today, Jews don't know where they come from. Most Jews probably come from Judah or Benjamin, but we don't know. Again, I'm a Levite, and we have an unbroken tradition that I come from Moses, a Levite.
You're not advocating DNA testing like Tucker Carlson is, are you?
No, we're not for DNA testing. And by the way, that's a great topic in the future. What does Judaism, what does Torah law say about DNA testing? Is it admissible, not admissible? It's a very interesting topic, in fact. But no, there's no need to go do DNA testing on anybody in the world to find out what their true original
Your
lineage.
mother's a Jew, you're a Jew.
Yeah. We got
How does your mother know she's a Jew?
We got a class coming on that. We got an episode, maybe in the episode on babies. We're going to talk about Jewish babies soon. And we'll talk about lineage and the maternal lineage. But back to the Amalekites. So Torah tells us you got to kill them, but they don't have them anymore. They're not around.
Theoretically, if we knew who they were.
Well, we know they don't exist.
It's not that the law doesn't exist. It's just that it's not applicable.
Correct.
But
because the nation doesn't exist.
But laws in the Torah never go out of style. It's just that they maybe can't be applied.
Exactly.
But it's still on the books.
It's on the books.
If you would have a certified Amalekite with all the paperwork, going back to who's the original, I don't know.
Mr. Amalek.
Well, they say that Haman was one, but you'll have to address that.
The Purim story, later on. We'll get to the Purim story.
But from the original ones, if you had a true and tested one, and 100%, we would actually have to kill him.
In theory, that is correct. But once again, they don't exist. The nation doesn't exist. So it's a non-issue. And why don't they exist again? So this evil king Sancherib, one of his plots of evil and to mix up the lineage of the world, to mix everybody up. And then he was successful. So no one can claim lineage and descent from one of the ancient nations. There's no Canaanites and Amalekites and Girgashites and Jesuites and all those ancient biblical nations. They don't exist.
Is there a land, like where did they come from exactly when they did exist?
So the Amalekites did have an area in the Middle East. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was like southeastern land of Israel, Arabia area. They were descendants of
Saudi
Esau.
Arabia.
In that area, somewhere in that area, that's correct.
I better not call them Amalekites. We're gonna cause a big stir here.
We don't want that, and I think we're headed for peace with the Saudis. So let's keep on good terms with them.
But that is the area, more or less.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. They had their own territory, and they surprise attacked the Jewish people, and because of that, they were they must be destroyed. King Saul was given the mission to destroy the Amalekites in his day and age. He didn't listen. He was punished. He lost the monarchy of the Jewish people because he didn't listen to God's law to destroy the Amalekites.
Well, he did. He didn't destroy the king, right?
He left some alive.
Right.
Non-fulfillment of even a drop of the mitzvah is non-fulfillment of the mitzvah.
And the animals, some of the choice animals that he wanted to bring for sacrifices.
Exactly.
But God said, no go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If something is 99% kosher, it's 100% treif, not kosher.
You're tough. You're a tough rabbi.
These Orthodox rabbis. There's no compromise with God's law, with Torah law, with halacha, with Jewish law.
Wow. Okay.
So, the question always becomes, well, what about, the Germans, Nazis, Hamas, Hezbollah, Amalekites, right?
What about Haman from the Purim story? Were the Amalekites still around at that time?
So that's a very good question. What the weight of the nation of Amalekite was? Were they on the census of Persia as Amalekites? We're not sure. We do know, though, that Haman, the evil man of the Purim story, the book of Esther, was a descendant of the Amalekites. How many of them were there in the world? He probably wasn't the only one. I'm not sure if it was a big issue back then. We don't hear stories of Mordechai trying to kill the Amalekites in his day. So it could be for various reasons the mitzvah started to taper off even then, perhaps. But that's a tradition that he come from the Amalekites. And just like we have the Amalekites and the Hamans, we have the Hezbollahs and the Hamases, and the Germans and the Inquisitions and the Crusades. It goes, we have a Haman in every generation.
Right, but I've heard that Amalekites could be understood not to necessarily be physical descendants, but spiritual descendants.
That's correct.
If they carry the same philosophy, perhaps they have the same law, and perhaps we do have to kill them. What do you say about that?
Okay, so that is a very, very famous topic. And it goes like this. The mitzvah, unwavering, unconditional mitzvah to destroy a nation is only with the Amalekites. And by the way, I should have mentioned earlier, it's a national mitzvah. It can only be done as a nation. It's not a vigilante gangster type of go get the Amalekite over there, but it would be legislated law that the Jewish people are at war with the Amalekites. But put that aside right now. We have many people throughout the generations, even today, who are like the Amalekites. They symbolize the Amalekites. They're the spirit of the Amalekites. So these people, as evil as they are, it's a mitzvah to kill them. But not because of the Amalekite mitzvah. Oh. It's because there's a mitzvah to kill anyone who tries to kill you.
A rodef.
One is a rodef, and a more common term perhaps is a statement of the Talmud. Haba lahargecha, hashkem lahargo. When someone comes to kill you, you kill him first. And yes, I believe that every Gazan wants to kill Jews, whether it's the Hamas or the Palestinians or the Gazans or whatever term plug in over. Anybody wants to come and kill you, you kill them first. It's not connected to the Amalekite mitzvah. It's an independent mitzvah that applies at all places, at all times.
So would it be true then if you kill an Amalekite, you get two mitzvahs? You get one because someone's trying to pursue you and kill you, you kill them first. And you get a double whammy because you're supposed to kill Amalek.
It sounds like it would work.
A double mitzvah.
It sounds like the math works.
That was a chiddush. That was something
new,
probably never heard before.
Yeah, great idea. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, but it's still like philosophically, do you have any problem with this? Like,
which angle, which issue?
The Torah is mandating murdering. Well, I don't want to use the word murdering because that sounds like a criminal act, but killing people.
Yeah.
Just because they're part of a nation. Now, yes, if someone's coming to kill you, I can totally get that. Again, I'm taking a step off literally what the Torah says, just trying to process it, especially in today's day and age. Not that it has to fit in with our philosophy today, but I am trying to understand it. I think most people could understand if someone's trying to kill you, you have every right, self-defense essentially, to kill him first, which you should do. But if you're part of a nation, and let's say you're a child, you're an innocent child, you're a 3-year-old little kid, you happen to be born to Amalek parents, okay, you didn't do anything wrong.
Didn't do anything wrong. Kid. We've heard this over and over again. Didn't do anything wrong.
Ideologically, how is it then we have to murder these children?
So I have 2 answers for you. One answer is it's God's law. We can't be more moral than God. If God said it's okay, that means it's okay. Our Western thinking.
Of course.
Right.
I mean,
so our Western thinking, we grew up, this is unacceptable. But Western thinking is not Torah thinking. And number 2 is, if a baby is born out of wedlock in Jewish law, as you might know, he's got a stigma for life. He's got problems. He can't marry any Jew.
Right.
Is it his fault?
But he doesn't deserve to die.
He doesn't die. Okay. But he's very restricted. Very restricted. Okay, I'll give you a better example. 2 Ashkenazi people, man and woman, get married. They don't do genetic testing. The boy's born with Tay-Sachs. The child's born with Tay-Sachs. He dies in 2 years. What'd the baby do? It's not his fault. What's my point? My point is that sometimes children do suffer due to no fault of their own. Whether it's a spiritual suffering, a physical suffering, a medical suffering. It's not true that every child is innocent and doesn't deserve to die. That may be true from the kid's perspective. Well, there is a
concept that children are not, until they're a certain age, they're not even held responsible for their actions. Like, for example, on the Jewish side, right? Any boy under 13, or some say even under 20, you can probably clarify that, or maybe another time. But there is an age below which people are really not responsible for their actions, and their sins aren't even considered sins. So here are little kids. Again, I'm not trying to defend.
Yeah, devil's advocate, the mitzvah. That's fine. That's great. By the way, just to correct you a little bit, what you just said a moment ago is that it's not that the kid is exempt, allowed to sin. It's not punishable. When a child under 13 sins, it's not punishable. Right. But the kid is a bright kid, and he knows he's not supposed to eat the bacon, and he eats the bacon. Right. That's not good. He gets a big X on his scorecard.
Understood.
But it's not punishable. There are times in life, medical, whatever is going to be spiritual, where a kid is going to suffer due to the parents or to some other external factor.
Right.
That's life. It's not
Judaism.
Judaism.
Just say that, like your first answer, really God has a plan. We can't subject our own human logic to things. We could say, well, this doesn't really make sense, but who are we to decide? It's divine wisdom. So there are things that are difficult to understand, like this, I would say, a child, an Amalekite child. Why does he have to die? It's really a question for God to answer. I personally don't feel like I did ask you the question. I was curious, but it's a tough one to answer.
It's a tough one to answer.
After 120 years, I'm sure we all have a lot of questions to ask God, and we'll get the answers.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, we have to follow the laws.
That's right. And thankfully, this mitzvah doesn't apply nowadays. And by the way, there's about 200 or more mitzvahs of the Torah that do not apply nowadays because they don't have a temple. 200 of the Torah's commandments require a functioning temple to be fulfilled. Right. So of the Torah's 613 commandments, how many are we actually fulfilling today? You don't have the temple. Not everyone is a Kohen. Not everyone's a woman. Not everyone's a man. And the mitzvahs that we do today is probably well under 200. The opportunity to do mitzvahs today. So thankfully.
This is another one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them, thankfully, don't apply nowadays because it really would not look good in the Western world.
Right.
And others, unfortunately, they don't apply nowadays.
So let's wrap up. I'll ask you one more thing. Bibi took a lot of flack because he called the Iranians Amalekites, right? And he started quoting verses, wipe out Amalek. And the whole UN, the whole world came out against him. Genocidal, Israel.
Yeah.
Did he make a mistake, or did he say the right thing?
So did he make a mistake? From the spiritual perspective, he did not make a mistake. He's accurate. The Iranian regime is a regime, a bloc, a nation, whatever word you want to use, a union that wants to kill us all.
Just they're not Amalekites.
They're not Amalekites.
So he didn't mean it in the literal sense.
Right. It's the spirit of the Amalekites, not the letter of the law Amalekites.
If you were his advisor, and looking back, would you say he shouldn't have said that?
I would say use the imagery, but make sure it's very clear that it's not a literal, it's more of a symbolic, spiritual idea. That's what I would have done. I think it was great though. I am thrilled when Bibi uses biblical references and mentions God and brings Judaism into the picture. Well, he's got my vote.
We for sure need politicians to say the truth, the real truth, nothing but the truth, and where the chips fall, they fall. We cannot be apologetic about who we are, why we're here.
That's right.
What God wants from us and from the entire world and what our role is. So we have to tell it like it is.
Well said.
So thank you for telling everyone what Amalek really is. And God willing, we thank God we don't have to wipe them out, but God willing, there won't be any others like them.
That's right.
That we have to wipe out.
That's
we just want peace. We don't look for trouble. But if you're going to start up with us, you're going to try to kill us. What are we going to do?
We're going to get you bad.
Okay. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, amen.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for another great episode.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us in another episode of The Rabbi Says. I was your host, Rabbi Ari Enkin. See you again next time.